Thank you for participating in today's meeting. Please do not connect to Zoom or teleconference while in the room, and please silence all devices. Click on the globe at the bottom of your screen to select either English or Spanish. Public comment will be taken after each item. If you are in the auditorium and wish to comment, please use the iPads located in the lobby. For meetings in other locations, please complete a blue speaker card and provide it to a South Coast AQMD employee. Speakers may be limited to a total of 3 minutes or less for all agenda items, and times may be shortened to ensure all speakers can be heard. A countdown timer will be displayed on the screen for each public comment. More time will be allotted for Spanish translation that is not simultaneous. For questions or issues on public comment, please call the public advisor at 909-396-3247. That's 909-396-3247. Please adhere to the speaker time limit and treat others with courtesy, civility, and respect. Failure to do so can result in your mic being muted or you being removed from the meeting. Be aware that this meeting is being recorded. By participating, you are authorizing recording of audio and visual content presented during the live event and consent to subsequent use of the recording in the public domain by South Coast AQMD.
I'll hold another minute. So with our three board members here, committee members here, that constitutes a quorum, or are we, okay, we're good. I don't see anyone online that's a voting member or in the queue. Are we missing anyone there? No.
Supervisor Doe's office had tested in earlier, but we don't see him as of
Okay.
yet.
Okay.
And I'm not sure that he'll sign on. Our understanding is he'll be here, though. Sorry, I just learned he will not be making it today.
Excuse
But
me?
his room is there in case anybody showed up.
Okay. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to start our meeting for the Technology Committee, and we'll start with our roll call.
Supervisor Doe is absent. Supervisor Hagman is absent. Mayor Locke Dawson. She's here.
Hello, Madam Mayor. We see you and are glad to have you there today.
Mayor McCallum,
Here.
Board Member Padilla Campos,
Here.
and Chair Rodriguez.
Here?
We have a quorum.
Okay, fantastic. We'll go ahead and dive into our action items for today, starting with item 1, establish special revenue fund and recognize revenue for implementation of the Invest Clean program and reimburse general fund. And we have a staff report. Take it away.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Lisa Tanaka. I'm the Assistant Deputy for Legislative and Public Affairs. The presentation today will be split by myself and Dr. Katzenstein. I'm going to take the first part, which is kind of some general background and context of the climate pollution reduction grant program. Next slide. So it just so happens that today is the 2-year anniversary of the enactment of the Federal Inflation Reduction Act. And that is the bill that created the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Program. So it was sort of serendipitous that it sort of coincided. CPRG, as the shorter name is known, is administered by the US EPA. It's a $4.6 billion program to provide grants to states, local governments, tribes, territories, and air agencies to develop climate action plans and to implement projects to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, air pollution, and hazardous air pollutants. CPRG requires collaboration among the states and local governments within the metropolitan statistical areas and encourages multi-jurisdictional partnerships. It's a really, truly unique program as it requires multiple actions in order to get to that implementation grant fund. Next slide. So for CPRG, there's really sort of multiple steps, as I just mentioned. The first was the formation of our steering committees. South Coast AQMD played a pivotal role in helping create those steering committees by first ringing the alarm bell that this grant program was coming and reaching out to our cities, counties, sister agencies, the COGS, transportation agencies. So early in 2023, we, with our sister agencies and the cities and counties, formed two separate metropolitan statistical area steering committees. So in the South Coast region, there are two. There's the Los Angeles, Long Beach, Anaheim MSA, and the Riverside, San Bernardino, Ontario MSA. So two separate steering committees. In the LAOC steering committee, that included the counties of LA, Orange, the cities of Los Angeles, Long Beach, and Anaheim, our county transportation commissions of Metro and OCTA, and many other government agencies, including waste and recycling, and anyone else interested in really CPRG and greenhouse gas emissions and air pollution. The Inland Empire Steering Committee was formed a little differently. It was made up of the COGs, so San Bernardino COG, Western Riverside, Coachella Valley, and the Mojave Desert Air Pollution Agency. Both South Coast AQMD and SCAG were members of both steering committees. So those were the committees that did the work to put together the priority climate action plans, which were the next step in the CPRG process. The PCAPs, as they are called, really kind of set the stage for the implementation grants. In order to apply for an implementation grant, the measures or the sector had to be included in that plan. In both of our steering committees, transportation and goods movement rose to the top as measures that we both wanted to pursue. So along those lines, South Coast AQMD led a working group within the two MSAs. So we brought the two MSAs to work together. We led a working group focused on goods movement, and we brought in other stakeholders, including the ports and additional agencies and governmental entities. And through that work, through the working group, after a lot of deliberation, it was decided that South Coast AQMD would actually put in or submit the proposal for goods movement for CPRG. And that is what we now know as the Invest Clean project. So once that was determined, South Coast also engaged in some additional outreach to labor for workforce training, as well as community-based organizations on environmental justice issues. So we kind of rounded out our proposal. Next slide. So July 22nd, EPA with Senator Padilla announced that South Coast AQMD received the largest award in the nation and the largest award that US EPA has ever given to any agency in their history. So it was really a profound and historical moment. It was an extremely competitive program. The EPA received nearly 300 applications, totaling almost $33 billion. There were 25 proposals awarded nationwide, South Coast being the largest again. And I just wanted to do a quick mention too that all of this was really built on the foundation of this multi-jurisdictional collaboration, and wouldn't have been possible unless LA County and SBCTA stepped up to the plate and accepted the implementation, the planning grants, which started our PCAP process. So really wanted to kind of highlight how important it has been for all of us to work together, and to really highlight that LA County and and SBCTA have taken a leadership role in really in this process with SCAG and ourselves in the cities and many others. But that concludes my portion, and Aaron's going to do the rest.
Thank you, Lisa. Next slide. Just a little clarification. It's the largest grant that EPA OAR has given out, not EPA in general. So just a little clarification on that. As Lisa mentioned, we focused on goods movement, and this slide shows an overview of the 4 incentive programs we put into this application. Just a little background, we focused on battery electric technologies only in this application, largely because the state received $1.2 billion under the Department of Energy's Hydrogen Hub efforts. And we didn't want to kind of double dip or risk the chances of double funding a federal project with this application. So just to go through these real quick, on the first one, the upper left there, a lot of the funds, close to $200 million, was put towards heavy-duty truck charging. And so we anticipate with these funds that we're going to put in about 1,000 chargers. Now, that's going to vary based on the kilowatts of these chargers, so it can be more, it can be less, but we average about 250 kW on these chargers for the rebates that we're hoping to implement. The next large portion of this is the locomotive pilot project, and there's about close to $200 million set aside for that also. And this is going to implement at least 18 battery electric switcher locomotives. So we have one right now in place at PHL down in the port area, but we need the OEMs to start manufacturing these more so they know the technology better. We need the rail operators to use them so they get familiar with the technology. We have to get some longevity testing with them. And this is a good way to put them in place and also reduce air pollution and greenhouse gases. The measure up in the upper right, we have around 28 million set aside for Class 8 truck incentives, for battery electric Class 8 truck incentives. The last mile freight for Class 4 and 5, we're working with the Southern California Association of Governments. MSRC had previously started a program with them for last mile delivery, and this is going to give them $50 million to help continue their last mile delivery program. The one on the bottom left, we have around 25 million set aside for cargo handling equipment, and this is for battery electric top handlers and also yard hostlers. Next slide, please. So looking at the overall emission reductions for this grant, we calculated both the criteria and the greenhouse gas emission reductions. And because we're looking at the goods movement sector, there's a lot of diesel being displaced, especially because these are commercial sector pieces of equipment. So looking at 25 years, we anticipate that the average comes out about $42 per metric ton of carbon dioxide reduced over this period. We did do our emission reduction calculations a little bit differently, especially for the infrastructure for Class 8 trucks. Typically, we look at the truck replacement as the emission reduction. In this case, we looked at the infrastructure because we know right now that infrastructure is the limiting factor to putting these trucks in place. So we put together this model that basically says if you put infrastructure in place and you phase in trucks over this period of time, you get pretty significant emission reductions. And we had that emission model verified by others like the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. They looked at it along with a couple of other consultants. Next slide, please. So over in the near term, just in California, we anticipate the infrastructure will create around 450 jobs here in California to help the creation of the installation of this infrastructure. Nationwide, with the building of the trucks, the locomotives, the switchgear, we anticipate 4,700 jobs created nationwide. And as this infrastructure gets put in place, we put together a jobs model. We anticipate this infrastructure is going to lead to more infrastructure because we see it already with some of the infrastructure we have in place in Southern California, that one location results in another location being built nearby, so trucks can go between locations. And we know there's a lot of plans for more locations on top of those. So over this period of 25 years, we anticipate 43,000 jobs, over 43,000 jobs created for both the infrastructure and the installation, things like that. A big component of this effort is getting a workforce trained and ready to install infrastructure. So we work very closely with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. We're going to work very closely with some nonprofits, especially those bringing high school students into the trade programs. local community colleges and universities as well. We had, success from the Volvo Lights program with Rio Hondo and some other community colleges getting a training program in place for the battery electric trucks. So we hope to replicate that here. And then lastly, we're going to have a steering committee with community benefits, with community groups, looking at how we can, they're going to help with the workforce training and also help with the implementation of some of these measures. And just last slide. So just today, really, this is just a basic first step in this project. We're just essentially setting up the account so that we can receive the funds, start to build time for this. But in the near future, you're going to see several more board letters come through, RFPs and other activities with this project. And with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you both for the report. Just want to take a moment. Congratulations to our remarkable staff for positioning us for this historic grant. Grateful for the time and dedication, as well as the collaboration, multi-jurisdictional collaboration, the working groups that set the stage for this tremendous grant opportunity. Looking at these key areas that were highlighted for the funding definitely is going to help us move forward significantly in our mission for better air quality, and also exciting to see the component of workforce training that's part of this as well. I know we have maybe some other questions that might be here for us amongst my colleagues before we take any public comment. So I'll hold there and see if there's any questions before we take any comments. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. I also wanted to congratulate you all for this great accomplishment. I'm pretty sure this was a monster of a grant to work on. All those numbers are great to see and very exciting. So thank you all for your hard work. The presentation was great. I just wanted to comment about the workforce training piece. I also wanted to mention that the Tatavian tribe has a workforce development around solar. They're called Paseki, if you're interested in looking them up. They don't get their name out there very much, but they're a great group to work with, as well as great alternatives. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mayor Lock-Dawson, please. Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Sure.
I just was wondering, you didn't have us in there, but sort of what the, also congratulations from me too, but what the sort of rollout with respect to, how many RFPs, how much funding, are we there yet, like that we're going to release per year, or do you have any idea of that?
Yeah, so kind of the timeline right now, we're in discussions with EPA to fast track. We really want to get this grant agreement in place. They do too, and we're hoping to have this grant agreement in place by October. So our anticipation is that we're going to start writing RFPs, and you'll probably see a board letter come through early or just late this year. We anticipate October, November at some point. But looking at to the first quarter and early second quarter for the RFPs to be released. And there's likely going to be several iterations of those RFPs as we start to implement these programs, but we hope to really just fast track this, get the project started, get the program going, and get everything in place as fast as possible.
Okay, great. Thank you.
We'll look forward to updates on that rollout. Thank you, Mayor, for that question. We'll go ahead and take public comments if we have any.
We have one public commenter online, Ranji George.
Okay, let's take that comment.
Yes.
Ranji George.
Good morning. Thank you.
Hello.
Thank you, board members. Good morning. My name is Ranji George. I was a program supervisor. We led the zero emission program at AQMD in the 90s. We helped lay the foundation for both battery electric vehicles and hydrogen. I'm glad it has caught on 20 years later. I just want to congratulate the staff for their work and getting these funds. finally zero emission funds are getting some traction. I have a question. There was no mention at all, and this is extremely disappointing, on the battery recycling issues. This is going to be a source of one of the major, I repeat, the major pollution for this area. You're bringing in all these hundreds and thousands of batteries, but you're just putting the onus on the state to resolve this issue. This is so frightening, actually, because most of these plants, as we know, the battery will be in the low-income areas, the economic justice areas. And we have seen how a previous battery recycling, like the Exide GNB and the one which is in Rowland Heights, the name I'm forgetting, how much lawsuits and how much public angst is about that, those recycling being planted just near their homes. So this is going to happen, and for this, what is so different? I mean, okay, it's not lead, but you still have nickel and cobalt, which is considered highly toxic by ARB's own list. So why aren't the public policy makers thinking seriously about it? Assign a committee to from AQMD to look into it. So, and secondly, I talked about hydrogen, and yes, Dr. Kansin said the state got some money for hydrogen, but in the past years, we were so much into natural gas. Many of our board members were part of the natural gas, momentum or whatever policy issues, and they got money from all sources, state, local, federal. We didn't say it was double dipping. One built over the other, so now they built some very good vehicles and infrastructure. So all this, the fact that you didn't look at the battery storage recycling, and the fact that the economic justice people have to face the consequences of this in 10, 20 years, and the fact that you're not getting more funds for at least the automotive hydrogen sector is extremely disappointing. So I hope some policymakers will wake up to see these issues in a larger context. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you for your comment. Do we have any others? In the
No
queue?
additional public comments.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment, and one of the few times I'll take the liberty of making a motion on this item. Do we have a second? Okay, we have
I'll
a second.
second.
Thank you. And any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll call for the vote.
Supervisor Dole is absent. Supervisor Hagman? Mayor Lock Dawson?
Aye.
Mayor McCallum?
Yes.
Board Member Padilla-Campos?
Yes.
And Chair Rodriguez.
Yes,
Motion passes 5 ayes.
thank you. Our next item, 2, allocate funds, issue RFP, execute and amend contracts for residential and commercial electric lawn and garden equipment program. And we have a report. Please take it away.
Good afternoon. My name is Victor Wan. I'm a program supervisor for the Technology Advancement Office, and today I'm presenting on agenda item 2 related to the Residential Lawn and Garden Rebate Program, formerly known as the Residential Electric Lawnmower Rebate Program, and also the Commercial Lawn and Garden Program. Next slide, please. Just by way of background, the Residential Electric Lawn and Garden Rebate Program is a year-round program where residents of the South Coast AQMD jurisdiction can apply for a rebate for the purchase of an electric lawnmower with the requirement to scrap an existing gasoline-powered lawnmower. The rebate amounts are based on the purchase price as shown in the table below. And as I said, there's a requirement to scrap an existing operating gas-powered mower when they get that incentive. Also with the commercial lawn and garden program is geared towards commercial landscapers where they can exchange their heavy duty equipment at participating dealerships with a big driver from a outreach contractor that would basically coordinate with the manufacturers and the dealerships. Next slide, please. So we're proposing to add funds for the residential lawn and garden rebate program in order to continue it uninterrupted and also to expand it to expand it to include 3 more pieces of equipment: an electric trimmer, an electric chainsaw, and electric leaf blower. Residents can also apply for those with scrapping of similar equipment. We're proposing to issue an RFP to get a consultant to conduct a minimum of 4, but targeting 5 outreach in-person events, in-person exchange events. And finally, we're proposing to add funds for that outreach contractor in order to help facilitate the commercial lawn and garden outreach rebate program. Next slide, please. And just the summary of the recommendations: we're recommending to allocate up to $500,000 from the Air Quality Investment Fund to expand that residential lawn and garden rebate program, and also to continue it. And we're also looking to issue an RFP to for those minimum 4, targeting 5 in-person exchange events where residents can go to one of the 4 counties to be able to exchange their lawn and garden equipment. And finally, to add $50,000 from the Carl Moyer Fund in order to help with the commercial lawn and garden outreach contractor. And that concludes my presentation, and we're available for questions.
Thank you for the report. Any questions, colleagues?
Just a comment.
Mayor, go ahead.
I would hope that Vice Chair Cacciati wouldn't bring a chainsaw here to demonstrate it.
I'll second that. Supervisor?
No, I'm just curious on expanding besides the lawn and garden. The equipment that transports it, like some of the larger, like on some of the places I work in my base, we have the big tractors and mowers and things you tow. I'm just wondering, are those some of the phases we could look at maybe in the future? Some of that larger equipment. Is that already kind of considered in that?
Yeah, so in the commercial lawn and garden program, those pieces of equipment would be eligible.
That's great. Thank you.
Yes, board member.
Thank you. You mentioned 4 locations for the outreach events. Are those supposed to be in different or mandated to be in different places to ensure that we're getting we're reaching different geographic locations?
So we haven't done this for a while. This is how the program started out, was having in-person exchange events. And we anticipate having one in each county with the hope that we could have one additional one in Coachella Valley, but we have to see how far the funds are going to go.
That would be the 5th one that is mentioned.
Right.
Okay, and just to be clear, this is just for the residential. This is not for gardeners this is just for individual folks, or is it all inclusive?
So there's both programs here. We have the residential one, which was the primary focus of the board letter, and then the commercial one. So we have programs for everyone.
So this is to augment both those programs.
Yeah, the last one for the commercial was really just to add funds to help with the outreach on that program, to extend that outreach. Yeah, so the in-person exchange is only for the residential program. That's correct.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And just real quick then, to follow up on that last question. So would the $500,000 be applicable to both programs?
No, so the $500,000 is strictly for the residential lawn and garden rebate program, and then the $50,000 was obviously for the commercial.
Okay, great. All right, so let's see if there's, seeing no other comments or questions, we'll go to public comment.
We have one hand raised, Ranji George.
Okay, let's take that comment, Ranji.
Good morning, board members. I am glad you're going forward with the RFP, but as I mentioned before, my name is Ranji George. I was part of the TAO in the 90s. I just wanted to emphasize, when will you start designing or looking for designs for a hydrogen-powered garden mower, garden lawn and garden equipment program? Hydrogen can give you a lot more advantages than batteries can, and obviously there's no disposal, no dirty waste to clean afterwards. And yet, and why don't we start that now? So in a few years, the ball will get rolling. After all, when we did it in the 90s, and I think we looked at every technology, we looked at an alternative, but we ran out of funds and we couldn't get into hydrogen. So why don't we do that right now with the funding? Have different vendors propose that thing. So you will find a much larger acceptance of the technology over time. Just like solar was very expensive in the 80s and 90s, and because some of these subsidies and programs the state and we had done, today solar is so far less expensive. In the same way, we could do that for hydrogen. So I urge the policymakers to look into hydrogen alternatives in this area. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Seeing no other requests, we'll close public comment, bring it back. Colleagues, any other comments or questions, or we'll entertain a motion? Supervisor, thank you. Mayor, thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll call for the vote, please.
Supervisor Dole is absent. Supervisor Hagman,
Hagman, aye.
Mayor Lock Dawson,
Aye.
Mayor McCollum,
Yes,
Board Member Padilla Campos.
Yes.
Chair Rodriguez,
Yes,
motion passes 5 ayes.
thank you. We'll look forward to that expansion and hearing about those outreach exchange events. Moving on to item 3, that is issue program announcement and execute contracts for AB 617 Public School Air Filtration Program. And we have a staff report. Thank you.
Sure. Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. My name is Dan Garcia. I'm a manager in the Technology Advancement Office, and I'm here today to request your approval to issue a program announcement and execute contracts for the AB 617 Public School Air Filtration Program. Next slide. So in 2021, our AB 617 communities prioritized about $13.7 million for a public school air filtration program. The communities that prioritize funding for this program include East Los Angeles, San Bernardino Muscoy, Southeast Los Angeles, as well as the Wilmington, Carson, and West Long Beach community. Next slide. To address this community priority, staff is proposing to release a program announcement to solicit applications for the public school air filtration program. The program would cover up to 100% of project costs, including up to 5 years of replacement filters. All public schools within AB 617 communities are eligible for this program. However, those within the East Los Angeles, Boyle Heights, West Commerce, San Bernardino, Muscoy, Southeast Los Angeles, and Wilmington, Carson, West Long Beach communities would receive the highest priority. Next slide, please. Staff's recommendation is to issue a program announcement for up to $13.7 million for the AB 617 Public School Air Filtration Program, and to authorize the executive officer to execute contracts with public schools and their preferred vendors for the installation and/or maintenance of air filtration systems. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available to address any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that report, and I'll bring it back to colleagues for any questions or comments.
yeah, Mr. Chair, if I might.
Yes, please go ahead.
I'm extremely happy to see that the San Bernardino Musco area is going to receive a majority or a good part of the funds, 5 million or so. I'm curious as about the outreach. Do you go to the school district or the individual schools, or how are the schools identified?
Yeah, so in the last month, we've met with the San Bernardino Muscoy School District and their maintenance staff 3 times, and they have expressed that they are highly interested in participating in the program.
So they will identify those schools that.
That's right. They will. They have the liberty to identify which schools they would like to be in the program, as long as they're within the San Bernardino Muscoy community, which covers basically the school district.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Supervisor?
Thank you. Just curious, what's the scope? They just put filters within the existing HV systems, or maybe, because 13 or even 5 million. I just replaced one at our government center. I know they're quite a bit. So if you actually replace the systems, that money doesn't go very far. But these, so you limit where it goes, like to put filters in certain areas.
Yeah, so what they would be eligible, what the program makes the schools eligible for is to install new air filtration systems. In some cases, there might be some accommodations, meaning upgrades to the HVAC systems that might be required. Usually, that is not the case. We recently did 55 projects. The cost for each project is about $110,000. And so, as you can imagine, we anticipate that this could cover quite a few schools.
No, absolutely. As long as you're looking at that range and not like completely replacing systems, yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you for that question. Any other questions, comments? Just real quick, is there a current waiting list or those who have applied that are anticipated currently to potentially benefit from these funds?
There isn't a current waiting list. However, we've been in a lot of communication with all the school districts. They're aware of the program and they have been kind of working to develop what schools they would like to prioritize for the program. And again, all of those schools would be within the AB 617 communities.
And do you have a sense of about how many schools could be utilizing these funds?
Well, with the level of funding we have, it could probably cover up to about 125 schools.
Okay. Fantastic. We'll go ahead and see if there's any public comment.
No public
Don't
comment.
see any in the
I'll
queue
move the
here.
item.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and call for the vote.
Did he get a second? Did.
Excuse
Was there
me?
a second? Okay.
Yeah, we did. Thank you.
Supervisor Doe is absent. Supervisor Hagman,
Hagman, aye.
Mayor Lock Dawson,
Aye.
Mayor McCallum,
Yes,
Board Member Padilla Campos.
Yes.
Chair Rodriguez,
Yes,
motion passes 5 ayes.
would go without saying, we'd like to see an update on those funds and the schools that are utilizing them. And if we can see where we are in the first quarter or so, it'd be great. We'll move on to other business and ask if any committee member or staff have anything for our consideration. Okay. All right. And seeing none from staff, then we'll move on to item 5. Any other public comment? Don't see anyone with a raised, oh, I do see one more. I do. Ranji George. Hello, Ranji. The
Hello.
floor is yours.
Good morning. This is Ranji George from the XTO supervisor. I just want to emphasize back to hydrogen. Hydrogen traction momentum is, at least in the light duty sector, has slowed down considerably. Honda, which was one of the leading forces, are about to bring 2,000 units of plug-in hydrogen. That's good news, but that pales so much in front of the amount of battery electric vehicles that have been sold. And partly is because the lack of interest within the policymakers to push hydrogen, at least in the light duty sector, because light duty sector is contributing to about 30% of CO2 emissions. And I just urge you to pay more attention to develop a working committees to address the various issues facing hydrogen, the cost of the fuel, the supply issues, the nozzle problems. These are issues that can be, I think, easily addressed if a group of advocates, good engineers, good to put their minds together. And we did that when I was leading the hydrogen program there. We put a team together from some of the best labs and people to address various issues. I'm not sure why that's not being done right now and help this momentum for hydrogen vehicles to get back to what it was in the 2005 era, where all the automakers were committed to make hydrogen vehicles. And please, I would urge board members to bring that back in. If I can make a comparison, some of you may have known about the beta versus the VH tape. VH version versus the beta version of the Sony came out. But the VHS, which was very inferior to the beta, won out because of consumer, lobbies. So the beta was relegated. So in the same way, hydrogen seemed to be relegated here to the more inferior battery technologies. So I urge you to support the hydrogen program and resolve the issues that consumers are dealing with. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment. And do we have any other public comment? Well,
No additional public comment.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to hearing on the upcoming discussions with the Alliance for Renewable Clean Hydrogen Energy System, or ARCHES, with our staff in the near future, and would like to direct staff at the foreseeable future to give an update on where we are with ARCHES and funding opportunities, the Hydrogen Hub, and those topics in general, and in alignment with what we have anticipated as priorities for the Technology Committee and overall AQMD priorities. So as those conversations occur in the near future, we look forward to having a report or update as appropriate. So with that, I'll just say we've completed our public comment period, and that completes our agenda for today. We will not have a meeting in September, so we'll be seeing you all next month. But before we conclude, I think, Mayor, you might have something you wanted to say?
Yes, I would like to close this meeting in memory of Richard Alatorre. He's a pioneering LA political figure who unfortunately died at the young age of 81, just a youngster. And he's also the father of our very own Derek Alatorre. So I think it's appropriate that we do that.
Thank you, Mayor, and we will do that in his honor. And our next meeting will be October 18th, 2024 at noon, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.